Hi, BENOIT LABERGE, Architectural History 130 with Marcella Olivia at LATTC, Fall 2016. We are going to study different period, different history part of the world, different time. We're starting with Stone Age. So, among the different building style that was found in the Stone Age time, the style varies from country to country. The Stone Age had some of same materials and tools type that which were found around the world, like stones and rocks. We have some example of Stone Age ruins found around the world following a few minutes. From the Stone Age to Egyptians, to Greek and to Romans, the stone was a major element of construction. Still today, we use stone that had proven through age that this was a reliable strength for stability and aesthetic of any building. Also, this is a mystery as much as how the pyramids of Egypt were built. What was the technology to bring all those massive rocks, sometimes 10,000 pounds? Technology to transport did not really differ from country to country, so they were using sand, water, ropes, trees as rails was a workforce to carry those huge pieces of rocks. People around the world definitely had the same vision. Today, in our technology, we use cranes, trucks. Manpower is not really used anymore as it used to be for the rocks used to carry to build the Stone Age or the pyramids. We just push buttons. That's different. So here's the video with, from the Stone Age going through Egyptians, Greeks and Romans.
Dolmen of Menga. It is one of the largest known ancient megalithic structures. The stone structure was covered with soil and built up into the hill. Beehive made of bones. In 1965, in Mezirek in Ukraine, a farmer dug up the lower jawbone of the mammoth while in the process of expanding his cellar. Further excavations revealed the presence of 4 huts made up of a total of 149 mammoth bones. These dwellings, dating back some 15,000 years, were determined to have been some of the oldest shelters known to have been constructed by prehistoric men, usually attributed to Cro-Magnon. Polnabron dolmen consists of a 12-foot thin, slab-like tubular capstone supported by 2 sets of slender upright parallel portal stones, which support the capstone 1.8 meters high from the ground, creating a chamber in a 9-meter low cairn. The cairn helped stabilize the tomb chamber and would have been no higher during the Neolithic. The entrance faces north and is crossed by a low steel stone. Moving forward to a different level of architecture and in place of the world where they were called pharaoh and belonging to dynasties, the Egyptians. The Orion correlation theory is an assumption of the Egyptology. It says that there is a correlation between the location of the 3 largest pyramids of the Giza complex and Orion's belt of the constellation Orion. The stars of Orion were associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and afterlife, by the ancient Egyptians, and the Nile River can be included to match with the Milky Way galaxy. The Giza's pyramids are a copy carbon of the stars forming the belt in the constellation of Orion. The 3 pyramids exactly simulate the star Delta Orionis, Mintaka, the small star, Epsilon, and Zeta. The Great Sphinx and the pyramids are part of the most recognizable symbols of the civilizations of ancient Egypt and of the Giza Plateau in Cairo. Continental drift and plate tectonics have changed the angle of the north position of minus 3.4 arc minutes azimuth off to the true north, as it is measured from a sphere to the true north. There is a movement of about 100 meters for the Giza Plateau at the Mokadam mountain formations and possibly some significant rotation. Giza is moving fast because of the contact point of the African, Arabian, and Eurasian tectonic plates, Another issue is the possible impact of the sea of the Giza Plateau. The level of the Mediterranean Sea has raised about 2 meters during the last 5,000 years, which has perhaps affected the tilt of the plateau. One of the last rulers of the 18th dynasty, Tutankhamun, King Tut. Inside of the tomb, his sarcophagus known for the treasure found inside. His stepmother was a Queen Nefertiti. His mother was a noblewoman called Achaia. His father was Akhenaten, known as Amenhotep. His wife was also his half-sister, Enkhene-Sinamen. Incest was recognized in Egypt to preserve the royal bloodline. King Tut ruled from 1333 BC until about 1323 BC. Historians put his age at death at age of 19 years old. Cholera disease, a rare born disorder, died of malaria. The most famous tomb is KV62, the tomb of King Tutankhamun. The discovery of King Tut's tomb was made by Howard Carter on November 4, 1922, with clearance and conservation work continuing until 1932. Tutankhamun's tomb was the first royal tomb to be discovered that was still largely intact. King Tutankhamun was a rather milder king, and other burials probably had more numerous treasures. Although the tomb was relatively small and undecorated compared to the other tomb in the Valley of the King, it had a wall reflecting the first stage of the afterlife of Tut. Some of the chambers were walled off for the previous owner, Queen Nefertiti, who may lie there. It is said that his older sister, Mary Taten, his possibly mother, Kenya, could also be in a tomb in secret chambers. However, the Egyptians' empire world vanished. The following of the map of the world were the Greeks. In looking into their world, the Parthenon is for me the pillar of what is to become an empire civilization. The Parthenon, a splendor, a magnificent building as viewed today. The columns are Doric order, and they are identified with the simplest clean non-existing base to the columns. At the upper part of the columns, a simple circular capital with a square on top to support the frieze. The shaft is curved, fluted, emphasis versus straight line, with it gives a sense of height and elegance. The frieze has triglyphs representing the end of the beams. It has 92 metopes. In the city of Athens, an aristocrat named Pericles changed the world, changed the vision on ruling the government and engineering the Parthenon, the perfect building proportion, and built on the Acropolis of Athens, the sacred rock, the high city. This area was dedicated to Athena, goddess of reason, intelligence, activities, arts, and literature. Greek world has seen today through history was an important time where the modern world is based on. We have heard many times about the Greek mythology gods. Here are some names: Athena, Hephaestus, Dionysus, Apollo, Poseidon, Zeus, Hermes, Hades, Hestia, Hera, Eris, and Aphrodite. So, in the world of the mortals, many buildings look alike with some variations. Let's look at two of them. Both temples had Athena involved. The Parthenon is where the status of Athena was placed, and as for a Hephaestus temple, a classic example of the Dorian architecture, it was dedicated to Hephaestus and Athena. This civilization run by emperors became the center of the world as they exploded toward the most powerful and structured civilization, an empire. Archaic period, the birthplace of the Western civilization. By 1300 BC, Mycenaean civilizations, last phase of Bronze Age in ancient Greece, they were representing the first advanced civilizations and laid foundations of Greek civilization through war and scandals. Agamemnon seized of Troy with Trojan horse. Then, fall of the Mycenaeans, and the Greek entered into a dark age for 4 centuries. Polycrates ruled Amos in 540 BC, a tyrant. Themistocles led the war against the Persians. Once Athens became an empire, Spartan felt threatened. The Spartanians moved on Athens for 2 years siege. Disease killed many people. The Great Athenian Plague. The war between Spartans and Athenians was a Peloponnesian War and lasted 25 years. Athens fell. Two men, Philip II, a Macedonian, the purveyors, and Pericles' son, Alexander the Great. The Greek idea was spread, moral culture, up to today. Olympic was invented by the Greeks to recruit soldiers. Alexander the Great, the most forceful world conqueror, also known as Alexander III of Macedon. He was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia and a member of the Aegean dynasty. Alexander was appointed to the throne at the age of 20. He spent most of his king years with a never-seen-before military campaign through Asia and Northeast Africa. By the age of 30, he had created one of the largest empires of the ancient world. It was stretching from Greece to Egypt and into northwest India. He was successful in all battles, and he is considered one of history's most successful military commanders. Alexander conquered Persian Empire, Anatolia, Syria, Phoenicia, Judea, Egypt, Bactria, and Mesopotamia, and as far as Punjab. He was also planning to conquer Europe. He then took his father's dream to lead the Greek army into the conquest of Persia. He invaded the Achaemenid Empire, ruled Asia Minor. Seeking to reach the end of the world at the Great Outer Sea, he invaded India in 326 BC, but was eventually forced to turn back at the demand of his troops. Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BC. They invented crossbow, gastaphates, and torsion catapult boat shooter, built a causeway between mainland of Lebanon and Tyre, then a siege tower, then went to Egypt. He was crowned then a pharaoh, made him a god, son of Ammon. Hellenistic period, Stoa, theater invented by Greek, important aspect of Greek outlook to the world, inspired the Roman with the Colosseum in Rome. How was the life within the Greek world of this empire? They had Stoa, with a courtyard, halls of columns with small rooms. Greek invented democracy and Olympics. They invented amphitheater, storytelling place, stadium, temples, columns, city development, Stoa, agora, way of living, democracy, structure engineered, and war strategy. Once the Greek empire collapsed, another civilization took over, the Romans. In July 13th, 100 BC, known as Julius Caesar, a Roman politician, general, and notable author of Latin prose, took Rome to a different level. How that civilization became to rule a large conquered land and create this powerful empire. Ambition, conquest, lust, murder, power of unrivaled technology, all cornerstones of the foundation of the Roman Empire, driven by cultural ego. Stadium, palace, road, aqueduct were symbol of idea of Rome, but they were powerless to prevent their own destruction. It was in 753 BC that Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, two brothers. Rome was named after Romulus. Cloaci Maxima, a sewer system, was the first massive engineering achievement of the city and still active today, 2,500 years later. There, they built the Forum. Then they built roads across the land by 312 BC with the Appian Way, first paved road built by Appius Claudius. Successor of Caesar was Augustus, crowned first emperor. They had waterproof concrete, a mix with volcanic sand, water, and lime. In 41 AD, most of the royal family were murdered to avenge the bloody reign of Claudius' nephew, Caligula. But Claudius was hiding cowardly behind curtains and was not killed, and became an emperor. He conquered Britannia and built two major aqueducts, the Aqua Claudius and Annio Novus. Claudius' downfall was his lifestyle, women and wives, luxurious, subservient to them. He married his own niece, Agrippina, sister of Caligula, and was seeking her own power, and made sure her son Nero, from a previous marriage, would be his heir, and would accede to the throne instead of his biological son. 4 years later, he He was killed, poisoned by a mushroom. Nero then became the emperor, and engineered disaster by being viewed corrupt and compulsive. He burned 3/4 of Rome in 64 AD to build his own palatial complex. Nero blamed the fire for a new religion called the Christian and burned them. At this point, he became paranoid, lonely, cruel, and more madness. He built the most lavish palace, a reflection of himself, and bled the money from Rome by asking the rich to pay for his palace with slavery and forced labor. The Domus Aurea. Then in 69 AD, he was overthrown. Nero's palace came back in life in 1500 AD from a sinkhole. In 69 AD, as Rome had no more heirs to the throne, the victorious power struggle fight with general was Vespasian. All was for the people. He drained the lake of Nero and built the Colosseum, also known as a Flavian amphitheater. Built with the sale of previous Jewish relics from a Jewish temple in Jerusalem, and then slaves from there were brought back in Rome to build it. It was 2 Greek theaters back to back and created a theater in Iran. Massive water tunnels were under the theater from the Nero time, and this was used to flood the theater for ship battle. The civilization was reaching the height of its power. By the end of the 1st AD, Roman Empire extended from England to Egypt and Portugal to Persia. All 15 million people were loyal subjects to one Italian emperor until 98 AD. A non-Roman and outsider was Trajan. From Spain, a warrior adopted son of Emperor Nerva. He started to repair the harbors, the road, public buildings, new aqueducts, and new bath on top of the Nero crumbling house. The Roman covered his palace with dirt, built a bath complex on top, Bath of Trajan. He died in 117 AD. His adopted son took throne, Hadrian, a military man, and realized that the size of its borders defenses would be difficult to maintain. He built a 15-foot tall wall to keep his soldier active, to keep Britannia, called Hadrian Wall, with miles, castles, and towers. Hadrian wanted his own building legacy. He rebuilt a burned-out building of Augustus' time, the Pantheon. Until 1 century later, Rome declined with the emperor Caracalla, a corrupt power murderer who rose to power, a tyrant who ruled by fear. He built a bath complex to cleanse his past sin, to prove himself as worthy of the imperial power. A success, but not for his reign. His bath project cost money and strained the economy. Then he invaded Persia and Armenia, with more costs to the economy. Hoping to be successful in his conquest, he was murdered in 217 AD, after 6 years of cruelty and intimidation ruling by his guards. 1 year later, a fire gutted the Colosseum and the soul of the capital. The empire did not recover. Over the next 3 centuries, the empire slowly died. Destructions in aqueducts, burning Germanic fights among, the empire was too large. The capital crumbled, 99% decreased. And that was the end of the Roman Empire.